it seems to me with all that information, it'd be good to have some AI or way to assimilate and process, because part of the challenge with doctors in like EKG or EEGs or whatever, they have to then interpret, they have to be the AI engine based on their Gestalt experience to understand what it's telling them, but even that's not foolproof. So the idea of what you're producing and all the data, and it could apply to so many different organs, and it could mean so many different things, which requires so many different types of disciplines to understand. It seems like this is a perfect storm for an AI that can help the doctor better process and understand.
It really is, and like I said, AI might not be the ultimate solution. We worked with a group that does evolutionary algorithms.
Yeah, evolutionary computation, whatnot.
Yeah, and they work very well because they battle each other and they come up with, here's the 5 things to look at.
Right.
Because it's typically not linear, it's not 1 or 2 things. And that's why the combination therapy works. So all the deep learning methods, whether it's AI, like I said, quantum computing's getting a lot of talk right now. All of those can only help because they can take mass amounts of data and look at the correlations and start looking to see, okay, what are the interrelationships? But you're right, for the doctor, he needs to have a start to finish solution. It needs to provide him a report and say, here's how you treat it.
You need a happy meal almost, because there's a lot of stuff going on.
You really do. You need to
reduce the complex to the simple.
Yeah, it's got to be an end-to-end solution. It's got to say, okay, we saw these, and it may not incorporate everything, but it can incorporate what we know is actionable and say, yeah, change this. And like I said, even down to the vitamins. No, they need a methyl tetrahydrofolate. That's the folate they need. They need they need more D vitamin, and this is what they can assimilate. It'll start giving them that specific information, even just for wellness, and for when you start looking at actual healthcare, it can definitely help in terms of here's how you best address this malady.
Well, what's cool about precision medicine, it's sort of like flying ahead of the aircraft. You can predict things before they happen, and you can almost allocate the care you're going to give something like that, and the probabilities that it will happen at a certain point in time. I mean, that's the whole beautiful thing about big data analytics. You can start testing these people for age, ethnicity, race, whatever, sex, and start to really identify and develop some very clear pictures. This person based on this population, you're in the 95th percentile. And you could be a lot more proactive, because right now I think we're all just reactive in medicine. And I think a big part of the goal, at least in my world, is prevent these guys from going to the ER because of the cost. But it seems like all medicine is reactive, and if you can make it more proactive based on wellness, lifestyle, understand the genetic components, predictive analytics, understand where this is going to go and when, I mean, that's going to foster a lot of other technologies and companies, I would think.
No, and it does. And it's funny because you think you're like, well, if you eat right, okay, what's right? It's different for each person.
Yeah.
And you exercise more, okay, different people react to different forms of exercise. So it's not as simple as, here's guidelines to follow. It does wind up being very precision and tailored to you.
Yeah, it's like the government. They're a bunch of boneheads. You think about the food pyramid, and what is that? I mean, it's like, eat this, and a lot of that stuff is just, I think as time has gone on, is not the best, but the idea of one size fits all is bananas, and it really has to be customized precision for the person, for the genetics, for their lifestyle, for their body type. I mean, not everybody can do high impact workouts, right?
Exactly.
It's just going to break them down.
Yeah, and you're hitting on it because you look at it, and the government had all the best intentions in mind with the food pyramid and putting fluoride in toothpaste and stuff like that, because they thought it was, well, this helps. Not everybody, and to an extent. So it does become real important that you know what's best for you.
Yeah, it reminds me of politicians. I mean, there's some good people, but there's a lot of morons up on the hill. I mean, when I listen to these guys talk, it's like, wow. It's just really truthful. I mean, we're not getting the best and brightest. And I think I like to think I work with a lot of really smart, thoughtful people. And so I think about the government, they would benefit more from connecting with private industry, certainly driving funding, and really get data rich on a lot of things we're talking about, because sometimes it feels like it's politically driven, who gets what money, when. There's a lot of industries that, from an economic perspective, you can't afford to let go, but probably aren't the better for the long term. That's all I'm saying. And I think the same thing's true in medicine.
No, I'll avoid politics just because they all drive me crazy as well. And what I do like is when you hear someone talking about bipartisan, it's like, that's called a win-win in business.
Right.
When both parties benefit. So there should be nothing other than that. because everyone has
Which
to
goes back to
benefit.
what I said, they're a bunch of morons that can't work
Exactly.
together. Like, really? Is it that difficult?
Yeah, and but you hit it, I mean, because you do see that a lot in medicine too, where it's like, well, I helped develop this solution, so this is the one I'm going to use and promote.
Yeah, what is that?
And guess what? There's inventions every day.
Right.
There's improvements of progression.
And that should be fostered is what I'm saying. And I think you're right. I think
really is.
if people could be bipartisan, I'd give them a lot of due respect. That's not happening. So it makes me wonder about the mentality, their emotional maturity. And that's what I'm saying, because I can see kids working better together, right? They
yeah.
got more wisdom in that process. So because we're talking medicine, we're talking the biggest funder of medicine is the government.
Right.
And to get this right really does matter, as opposed to the politics and the jockeying for position and the grandstanding that you oftentimes see.
See, and that's the beauty of genomics. A lot of that can occur that's unregulated.
Right.
So a lot of the wellness stuff, that can occur without interference from outside sources.
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of what stops things in medicine is kind of the procedures. They look at clinical trials, they look at the cost. A lot of that can be circumvented by really taking a much better scientific approach and actually incorporating mathematics. And that's where you talk about AI, advanced, any advanced computing. It's using mathematics. In medical industry, they don't really use mathematics, they use statistics.
Right.